show for you today, the Dawg Pound. And this woman, this woman to my right is, I try to remember her title. This is the Duchess of Productivity. Did I get that right?
You got that right. And I got to tell you, after last week and onboarding two more stores, I feel like I deserve the title. I'm not going to lie.
The Duchess of Productivity, April Simmons from Horn Automotive Group.
Super
And
glad you're here. I've been gone, super was sick, and then was super busy last week with onboarding these new stores. So glad to see all your smiling faces today.
well, my smiling face is smiling. Of course, I did that seminar for the Keating Group this past week, and I knocked it right out of the ballpark. Oh, wow. And direct from Moscow, Russia, the mad Russian himself, the king of reinsurance, Max Zanan. Hi, big guy.
Hey Jim, good to be here. I'm glad my sister is back. Because she does the translation into whatever I'm saying. She translates it into corporate.
Well, we haven't got Bobby nor Jennifer on today to keep you in line.
Right,
We're running wild. Let's go, Max. Let's do
right,
it.
right.
And the man with no title.
The man with no name.
The man with no title, Jason Harris. Strategy with Jason. Hey, big guy.
What's going on? How you doing?
What's been
I'm
happening?
glad
with
we
you?
called today and we color coordinated. I always like it, Jim, when we color coordinate. It makes me happy.
Yeah, I wore my peach colored shirt because it's springtime
I'm
in
gonna go with
Atlanta.
orange on it. I'm gonna say it's orange.
I told you we looked in the grill last week, and I was gonna fire up the grill on the back deck, and there's a bird nest in it, and it's a cardinal. A cardinal has laid six little eggs. So we're watching, and the cardinal goes up under the grill cover, and I got a Weber grill, and she goes up under the grill cover, and she comes out, and I see her taking worms in there. I guess the eggs have hatched. So it's springtime in
It is
Atlanta.
springtime. I think barbecuing needs to be a podcast topic for us at one point in time. I will say this, you know, people in the automotive industry know how to throw down.
I
Like,
am a grill master.
right? I think it's almost like a part of your blood. If you're in the automotive industry, you have like grill master blood in you, and like know how to like do 100 hot dogs and 16 prime rib steaks all at the same time. Like I,
Oh, we do. Now, Max, with your Russian heritage, what do you eat? Borscht?
I mean, I do. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I do. But I love barbecue. I mean, after living in America for 30 years,
You're a sleeper cell for Putin. I know
100%.
it.
I remember the first dealership I was ever in. They used to do real like steak and bean competitions. Like I don't know why I find like people are afraid to do real steak and bean competitions, but I remember coming to a Saturday and my team eating steak, and I'm watching everybody else get served out of a can of beans and just
They don't
love
want to. They
it.
don't want to hurt the little kids that were raised with everybody gets a trophy.
I got some hard feelings out there.
I mean, salespeople today have every dealership's got to have a blanket fort and puppy therapy.
That's right.
It's gotten crazy. Oh golly! Today we're going to talk about productivity. No, we're not. We're going to talk about
We haven't been productive.
affordability. There's an article that I caught in Automotive Snooze that just hit me kind of hard. It talked about it's in the current edition that there's an affordability survey saying that most consumers are delaying car purchases. 65% of people say they're going to wait 10 years to buy a car. I mean, the average Toyota is just past $50,000 according to Toyota Motors.
It's insane.
The average Toyota. The car that was the epitome of affordability when it was introduced into the country. Max, talk to me.
So, Toyota is lucky because they discontinued the Land Cruiser in the United States. if they kept the Land Cruiser, the average price would be even higher. If you think about it, And listen, the main point, and I think the key takeaway for me is that there's Elon Musk, and then there's everybody else, right? Tesla has just cut prices of Model S and Model X for the third time this year.
$7,500 seems to be the benchmark.
For the third time this year. So obviously, Elon Musk has a pulse on the finger on the pulse when it comes to the economy and the state of the consumer's mind, right? And until other OEMs will come to that realization, we're gonna have less and less cars sold. Because if you look at that survey, right, it's pretty scary because 29% of buyers are postponing their purchase for at least 1 year. That can be a difference for a dealership between making money and losing money, right? So unless we bring back either the reduction in the MSRP or a heavy duty rebate on each and every model, and the OEMs start producing base models that are not as profitable for them as fully loaded models, we are going to be in big trouble as an industry.
Now,
so these are my 5 cents.
Now, what you just read was the 29% of non-luxury buyers, 28% of luxury buyers said they'll delay another 12 months. But that was not
Correct.
all the buyers. That was the people that would delay for 12 months. Even a larger number are planning to keep their cars 10 years. Jump in on that, Jason.
I mean, just look at the interest rates.
That's the other.
It's the other thing. I mean, if you look, a $50,000 purchase, with given interest rates on an 84-month term. I mean, April, you know better than me, but it's going to cost you between $80,000 and $90,000. It's crazy.
The consumer price index is going up with inflation under current politics, 14%.
Exactly. I mean,
I can tell you, living here in Arizona, of course, I'm going to jump in on this. Surveys are really just go to the mindset of where people's minds are at. They're not reality. They've never been reality, but what they are is a good indicator of how people are thinking. So
that's what I'm thinking, April. I think you're correct. I don't put a whole lot of
I don't put any weight on it, but what it says is that we've got to get very strategic on our marketing and our conversations with our customers because that's how they feel. It's not really reality. Most customers, they plan to keep their car for 10 years. Great for us selling warranties, right? But how many of them actually are going to keep it for 10 years is a whole nother conversation. People are feeling that right now for a slew of reasons. One, yes, prices of cars are out of control. All of the cars we have are mid-level and higher. None of the entry-level vehicles. That's a problem. Interest rates going up is a problem because now payments are higher. And I don't care what anybody says, but the price really doesn't matter. It's all about payment and down payment. It's always has been and it always will be. That's the affordability. It doesn't have anything to do with the price. The next aspect of it, though, is when people see prices jumping up everywhere, people's incomes have not gone up 25%. And 25% is what people's incomes would have needed to go up to just have the same thing they had last year, which is to be able to afford the groceries, the gas prices. We've got our premium gas here in Arizona is knocking on $6. So you start to add
for premium gas.
We're knocking on $6 for premium gas right now. So when you start to add up groceries, gas, just the fundamental things, the interest rates, the prices, you add all the things up that people do on a daily just to get back and forth to work and survive, they would have needed an increase in their income to 25%. And that's just not the case. If anything, we're starting to see the leveling of things happening. And as that happens, that creates fear. So what is going to be most important for the OEMs at this point in order to get ahead of this? To me, it's not even about cutting prices. It's going back to creating more entry-level vehicles and coming out with aggressive finance and lease programs that will allow consumers to buy the
aggressive finance and lease programs. Okay, I heard that. Because interest rates went up. We're talking about affordability of cars. We're talking about the affordability of the price.
So this is what I mean, Jim. When I say April translates for me, when I said a heavy duty rebate, right? In the corporate speak, right? That heavy duty rebate goes into a very attractive lease program.
Well, get this. I just read that credit unions are aggressively leasing, and they've got leasing programs in credit unions now.
Mm-hmm. They really do.
Why aren't the manufacturers doing more leasing from? I have not seen the leasing programs I saw back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s.
They're coming, Jim. I really feel that they're coming. The interesting thing is going to be who actually gets there first. There's always this saying that I say to whether you're a general manager or manager in automotive, any space, pride or paycheck, right? And right now, the first OEM that says they want paycheck over pride will be the first one to jump and realize that they need to start doing these things. There's some OEMs that are going to hold on to that pride a little bit longer, thinking that having, the consumers will pay all the money and that's okay and all of these things. But as demand starts to go lower than supply, which we're starting to finally see that, right? We've got cars on lots. When that happens, at what level? Is it 60 days that needs to sit? Is it 90 days? Who knows? But I will tell you that my prediction is by June, every OEM has programs, period.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I think it's going to take a little later. I think it's going to be the end of the year. But, to April's point, why does the manufacturer need to do it? Until the dealers really start making a stink. Look, the dealers and OEMs have a wholesale resell relationship, and that's a funky relationship in itself. It's like, if I keep wholesaling this to you and you keep buying at that price, then what do I need to stop? I mean, if I don't need to put extra money into subvented rates and people are still willing to buy and my dealers aren't complaining, I'm like, it's a balancing game. It's a balancing game. Like, once there is enough noise from the dealer body, the manufacturers will make a move. But again, that goes to that wholesale retail relationship. Why change anything when my retailers are not really complaining to me too much, but they're just enough? There's a threshold. And
the dealers aren't angry enough.
It's called
they're not angry enough. Yes, they're not angry enough.
The pride comes back when they start losing market share. So the first one who jumps out and starts putting the aggressive programs and starts chomping at market share, and the dealers are going, hey, we're doing everything we can, but we can't compete. Okay, market share will be the other side. The pride part of this will come back, and the OEMs will be in. That's
market share is not a conversation yet because the inventory levels aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Jim, to address the fact that there are leasing programs with credit unions. Credit unions are sharp shooters when it comes to leasing. They know that certain vehicles have an unbelievable residual value.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a Toyota 4Runner, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they focus on, right? So they don't offer an unbelievable leasing program on a Hyundai Sonata.
Right.
But, on a 4Runner, be my guest all day long.
Well, the current automotive news says credit unions gobbled up auto loan market share in 2022, with Credit Union Auto Leasing of America encountered record levels of interest in leasing segment last year.
Look, it makes total sense. I mean, I was looking at a vehicle and 7.24% is what the dealership had. I called my credit union. In less than a 5-minute conversation, no problem, Mr. Harris, 5.99. Like there wasn't like I don't think I gave him much more than my first name and last name. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just, hey, there's blood in the water. They're going to take up that opportunity, and rightfully so. They should.
Well, I believe that the manufacturers deserve everything that they get because inflation hasn't gone up 30%. Cars have. You know, I go back to, my God, the 1977 Eldorado 75 Eldorado Brougham. The Eldorado Brougham, that car was 28 feet long. You couldn't see the hood ornament in the fog. You know, I mean, that was a big ass car. It had little opera windows, and I mean, it was really a Landau roof, and that car was $13,000. I mean, 13, and the invoice on it was about $9,000. Invoice was $9,000. The dealer had all sorts of markup. And then in 1995, 20 years after that, the Eldorado Briggs, the last year they built the Eldorado, it was a $50,000 car with $2,500 markup.
Well, but to your point, that gap has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
The margins were smaller for the dealers, but inflation didn't go up.
True.
You know, from a $13,000 car to a $50,000 car in 20 years. And that's what's happened to us more recently. The manufacturers have had price increase after price increase, and they're still building electric cars that are too damned expensive for the general public, and they're transitioning to it. The government thinks the people can afford it. Where is it going to end, April?
You know, it's going to end in where it always does, which is somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's going to be a percentage of people that will need to buy electric vehicles, and there'll be a percentage of people that can still afford a $50,000 car, but there's going to be a percentage of people that will have a need for automobiles that, if left satisfied, somebody else, a new manufacturer, will jump in the bandwagon. That's typically what happens. And suddenly they start selling a ton of cars. So whoever is the first one to start coming back out with, you know, the entry level car, the entry level in each of their trim levels, right? Stop giving me the limited, start giving me the base. When they start doing that, then we'll start to have those cars available for people. We just have to work on our messaging and you know, help settle the fear that a lot of the consumers are looking at right now, because there is a lot of that stuff. People are scared of what is happening around them because it's a lot all at once. You know, if you feel like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, then people tend to just stay stuck in the mud. So our job in automotive, as it always has been, which is why the dealers will always survive, is that we are the ones that are going to reach out our hand and pull people out of the mud. We are the ones that will be the ones to do it. And that is what's going to happen over this next year or so, is it'll be a lot of conversations to help people solve problems, to get them into an economical vehicle that will get them where they need to go to work and to see their families.
So I think the manufacturer's idea is subscription accessories.
They're already throwing them out the window. That was just
trial and error.
Their version of getting greedy, right? Like, you want to talk about our mop and slop? That's the OEM's version of mop and slop, right? They're like, let me get in on some of that. That going out the window.
Subscription heated seats, subscription radio. I mean, subscription. And then the government is mandating new accessories in cars. I read recently, now they want to have passive alarms in the car, things that recognize when the driver is intoxicated or inebriated. There are laws that want cars to be able to passively identify the customer drinking.
You know, in today's world, that's not necessarily the worst thing. That aspect I think would be kind of cool if they can do it in a, you know, financially though. I mean, I think at the end of the day, all this stuff is fine and dandy, but what really matters is what is it going to cost? There's an ROI to everything, right? Every single thing there's an ROI to, and if it costs more than the gain, then it won't happen. If it doesn't, then it'll probably get to the finish line. And I think stuff like that is in today's society where we have Uber and taxi cabs and, you know, all these different things. There's no excuse for us not to do that. I actually do think that's a good thing if they can do it in a way that isn't like.
No, listen. I think there's nothing to gain for the manufacturer by doing it.
No.
So why bother? Right? And every time there's some kind of a prohibition, it basically starts an illegal business elsewhere. So I guarantee you that there will be a black market disabling these sensors.
I'll just say cheers to that, Max, because you're so right.
Oh, amazing. I don't know if there's enough law enforcement out there to catch these people. My car found its way home from the airport many times all by itself.
Oh yeah, autopilot.
Yeah, absolutely on autopilot.
But no, look, I think we should go back to the purpose for owning a vehicle is fundamentally changing. You know, there was, you know, a point in time when I was a kid, it was a rite of passage. You got a car. That's what you did. Right.
Had to have a car.
That's not necessarily the case anymore. Owning a vehicle means so many different things, you know, to so many different people. You know, owning a vehicle can, for some people, just mean I just need to get from point A to point B. For other people, it's a status symbol, and you know, for others, it's a piece of technology. All right. Oh, over the last few years, there's over 50 new OEMs. Over 50 new OEMs to the industry, 20 of them actually here in the US. You know, you can look at
19 of them are on the brink of a bankruptcy.
And well, 100%. But it's interesting to see that someone's seeking, they're seeking, we're seeking for something new. We're seeking for what does it mean to own a vehicle today? You know, look at like, you know, the one I like right now is the Chinese company VinFast, right? Like, you know, look at what they're doing. You know, and the subscription model they have around their batteries. And it's like, you can buy it or you can subscription model this. Like, what does it mean to own a vehicle? Is it a piece of technology and does it serve that purpose? You know, is it an extension of my phone? You know, is it an extension of what I go out and do on a daily basis? Like I think there are fewer and fewer people that are needing to buy a vehicle just to get from point A to point B. You know, when I started in the industry, we sold a lot of base model vehicles. And over the entire time that I've been in the industry, the 20 years that I've been in the industry, you know, I just saw fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer base model vehicles being sold. Now they were still advertised, but, you know, fewer and fewer of those base model vehicles being sold. And I think the consumers that are out there buying vehicles are looking for more than just a vehicle. And I think the manufacturers are answering that with technology.
You think there's a demand? I don't buy that, Jason. I don't think there is a demand for half of what they're putting in cars today.
Well, it's no different. Well, look, demand is not necessarily what you'll use, but the perception that you have it. It's the same things, same reason, for some reason, the Jeep Wrangler is still on the road today.
Which that's all fine and dandy until affordability comes back into the mix, right? 100%. That's where the issue comes into play now is we don't have enough pre-owned vehicles with all the bells and whistles to take away from the fact that we now need a bunch of base new vehicles in order to hit our supply and demand numbers from the affordability standpoint.
100%. It's not necessary.
So that's a spot now where we've really got to wake up and understand that there are more people now going back to work, right? There's this work from home thing. There's a lot of people that can still work from home, but there's a lot of people now, we're starting to see it. They're getting forced to go back into the office. We're starting to see more traffic, which means People are getting forced to go back into the office. So now these people who've gone the last 3-4 years without having a need for a car suddenly need one because hubby dropping off wife clear across town and now it takes this, it's not working. So I think there's still going to be a massive amount of need buyers this year. This is not going to be the year of want buyers.
That's what the survey said.
Right.
The survey said they're putting off buying. They're waiting for something. And what are they waiting for? The manufacturers to roll back prices? I'm not sure.
And that's just it. That's why I think it goes back to us just having a conversation with people, because I think at the end of the day, it boils down to us taking away the fear and helping solve problems for consumers, whether that be we sell a used vehicle, we lease a new vehicle, whatever the case may be, to help get them over the hump, because we still have a lot of pent-up demand of need buyers.
There is a lot of need buyers, but now there's two things that they're holding them back. Affordability is one we've discussed, and the other is the economy. They are worried about a financial collapse. People are worried about a recession, and they're worried about a war.
But it all boils down to payment. Affordability has nothing to do with anything other than payment and down payment. So if a consumer is in a vehicle at a $500 payment, and I can get them into something.
Payment and down payment is all the people have to worry about.
Right? For a lesser payment. And when I say lesser payment, that's all encompassing, right? The way to talk about payment to a consumer is not just the on the hood payment. You also want to talk about, hey, if this car gets 20 miles better gas mileage, that should play into the payment. That is affordability. Affordability is the insurance, the payment, what it's going to cost to maintain the vehicle, what it's going to cost, as far as warranty. Do I have it? Do I not?
That's the old A/B comparison you're talking about, where you take the car they're currently driving. What repairs are you going to have in the future that you're going to avoid with a new car under full warranty? And what's the gas mileage savings over your old car? How much you spend.
That's affordability. That is affordability.
Yeah. Salespeople don't know how to do that.
Well, we're going to show them. And I think it goes before that. The problem is we used to be able to rely, Jim, just on teaching our salespeople how to do that, because those conversations all happened in the showroom. Those conversations are not 100% happening in the showroom now. So our job is to get people to come to the showroom to have those conversations, which means our messaging in our marketing, our messaging on our websites, all of our messaging outward has to be focused on affordability as a whole and making sure that we're having those conversations outwardly.
But you are one of the four of us. Not being facetious in any way, people watching this broadcast, you're looking at four of the most brilliant people in the car business. We know, and don't smile, Max. I mean, I'm talking a pure out fact. We are movers.
I accept the compliment.
We're thought leaders. We're thought leaders. I mean, and everybody doesn't fit in the category. And I have no humility whatsoever. No, we are thought leaders, and the truth of the matter is, everybody needs to change their thought processes. Is what April's trying to get across right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think I would actually probably slightly disagree with April, because I think the next generation of buyers is not buying on need. They're buying on experience. And this is why you see really silly pieces of technology
Jason, I think she said that there's a whole pent-up demand of need buyers that didn't buy so far.
You know what? I don't think there's that many need buyers out there anymore. And I think the manufacturers are seeing the exact same data, because look, manufacturers are not building cars based on needs. They're building cars based on the experience. And if I look at like all the younger people that have worked for my agency over the years, and what they choose to spend their money on versus what they don't choose to spend their money on, they choose to spend their money on experience, not need. It's a wildly different approach that the expectation is that if I spend X amount of dollars, there's an experience that goes with it. It doesn't just fulfill my need, it exceeds my needs through some type of experience. And I think that's why when you look at like the 20 new manufacturers that are entering the US market, their vehicles go beyond just meeting someone's A to B transportation needs. They create an experience, and mainly around technology and either the friction of using the vehicle or not using the vehicle, or how I engage with the vehicle, or how the vehicle engages with me or connects with me or connects with my home, so on and so forth. I
Jason,
manufacturers are going to be changing.
this is like a perfect example of this woke ideology infiltrating every.
Oh, glad
aspect
Bobby
of
and
life.
Jennifer
I
are
know,
here.
Where's Bobby?
Listen, I might say something completely crazy and off the wall, right? But everybody, and I mean everybody, no exceptions. I don't care if you're 17 or you're 77 or 87. Everybody buys a car because they need one. It gives you freedom to do whatever you want to do, right? And maybe one car gives you freedom to do it with a navigation system, while the other car doesn't give you the navigation system option. But the freedom still there, right? You can't take your kids to a soccer practice in an Uber, right? Because you constantly have to take, their equipment from one Uber to another Uber, right? Whereas if you had your own car, all of their stuff is in the trunk, right? And yes, Jason, everybody wants to have this fluffy, unbelievable Back to the Future experience.
Well, I think the experience trumps the need. It's not that they're
right,
not buying.
but the experience comes down to what you can afford.
Now,
Right?
Jason, you're not saying
necessarily what they afford, because I mean, we know, 90% of the people out there driving around vehicles they really shouldn't afford or can physically afford.
I don't know about 90%.
now, Jason,
Right. 60.
Jason, you're not saying that 2023 Dodge Challenger at 1,025 horsepower is not a need buyer.
It's an experience.
That's an experience, right? But we're talking about a tiny percentage of population.
But
1,025 horsepower
involved in
not a
every
need buyer.
single.
How many Dodge Challengers with 1,087 horses were produced?
But look how much technology is being shoved into a Hyundai Sonata.
Right, but the Hyundai Sonata, is something that people buy because this is what they can afford. Would they like to buy a Bentley?
But it's what they can afford from an experience, not from a need.
No, Jason. It's what they can afford, period.
No, I don't think that's
Hyundai Sonata has 4 doors and it has 4 wheels. And it takes you from point A to point B. It takes you to work. It takes you to a date. It takes you to a supermarket.
Well, that's what a Hyundai Accent L is. I mean, I've sold vehicles with no power locks, no power windows, no air conditioning. Right? That's a need. That's a need. No one's buying needs anymore. They're buying off of what they can afford, but the experience that generates off of their affordability. So it's
well, I think we're at a point as an industry where it doesn't cost any more to provide automatic windows as opposed to roll-up windows. Right, the cost difference is not there, so that's why you can't get a car with roll-up windows.
Correct. You can't afford leather, but you want leather. Then the conversation in the dealership is, let's look at the base model and add leather to it, right? So Jason, I think that the miss here is that yes, people are looking for experience, but not everybody can afford the experience they want, right? Like that's where the saying,
I think that's where the battle begins for the consumer. All
the people who had a bigger budget, they now can afford to come in and buy a car because we're not charging 20 grand over MSRP, and the OEMs are going to have to start making base vehicles. They're going to have to, because of the affordability, pent-up demand. Because when you can sell every single limited vehicle you have with all the fancy dancy, there's no pressure to build a base vehicle. When all the limited start collecting dust on the lot and the consumer need is to have a base vehicle they can afford, then we start building those vehicles.
Yeah, I'm the next generation of buyers. I don't believe look for needs as much as they look for.
But Jason, the next generation of buyers is still bound by the laws of economics.
No, it's true. So they would rather just choose not
right?
to.
And math is math. If the
Well, how do
next
they get to
generation
work?
of a
Get
buyer,
their kids to soccer practice. How does the next
They
generation?
choose a job they can work from home. Like that's what
Okay,
they're
so
doing.
yeah, but
So-
the next generation out of college at best is going to make $40,000 a year
From home.
At best.
from home, from basement. I don't care from where. $40,000 doesn't buy you a car with this incredible
who's
experience.
gonna
At
cook our
best,
food? This is what I really want to know.
right? It buys you a Honda Civic.
Everyone's working from home. Who is going to cook my food that my Uber brings to me?
Right,
Like-
exactly. So at $40,000 a year at best, you can afford a Honda Civic. And nothing against Honda Civic. Honda Civic is not a Bentley. It's not a Chinese startup with this amazing subscription this or subscription that. It's a basic car that takes you from point A to point B.
Well, wait a minute. What Chinese startups are in the country right now?
Zero.
Zero.
VinFast would be the biggest.
I was the keynote speaker of the New Jersey State Dealers Convention in the 90s. And Malcolm Bricklin was going to bring the Chery automobile from China to the United States. And as you know, Malcolm Bricklin brought us a Hyundai, but he also brought us the Yugo.
Daewoo.
The Yugo. You know, Malcolm Bricklin had his hits and misses and brought us Subaru. But anyway, Malcolm was in the audience. I'm looking right at Malcolm. And he had one, and he was selling franchises to the Chery automobile for $250,000. And one dealer had bought the franchise, Bob Suzui, who's a dealer up in New Jersey. You know, Suzui bought the Chery franchise. Suzui was sitting with him, and I'm the keynote speaker, and I said, Chinese cars will never come ashore in my lifetime. I said that on stage. I said, first of all, they got the biggest standing army on the planet. That was 25 years ago. I said, they're going to start some shit. I said, they got the biggest standing army on the planet. No natural enemies. They're going to start something. They're counterfeiters. They steal all the technology. And first of all, there's another reason it'll never come ashore, because it's Malcolm Bricklin. I'm looking right at him. and sure enough, I made that speech a quarter of a century ago. And to this date, no Chinese car has come ashore. They bought existing corporations. They bought existing corporations. In Russia, the Chery automobile that he was hawking at the time, at a 5-mile-an-hour fixed barrier crash test, all the occupants were killed.
But listen, Jim, you don't even have to go that far with Chinese cars, right?
Yeah.
Look at the Western European market. Look at French cars, Peugeot, Citroën, Renault. Where are they? They're not sold in
Terrible
America.
cars.
Right. They're not sold in America. And they have decades of experience building cars, research and development, selling cars in Europe, selling cars in Asia and Africa, right? So Chinese cars are not even at the level of the French cars, and we don't let the French cars into the market.
Yeah, well, how in hell did Fiat come back?
Well, listen, through the back door acquiring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram.
Oh, fix it again.
That's how Alfa Romeo came back also.
Fiat, Italian vehicle, meant Fiat. Fix it again, Tony.
Jason, I have to tell you, and I feel bad because I feel like you're, without having Bobby here, you're kind of low man on.
Oh no, I don't mind at all.
But the one thing I always say, and I caution when we have these conversations, we all have different perceptions, and our perceptions are based upon what we've experienced in our own life and what is currently happening around us, and what you are currently seeing and witnessing from your chair, working from home, you know, where you're at, Jason, versus what I see from my chair, not working at home in Arizona, is completely different. So the perceptions and the things that we deal with on a day-to-day are really driven by where we are and where I am. Everything you're saying is totally not legit, right? Like other than maybe like 5%.
Everything you're saying is not legit.
That's a
Okay.
first, by the
Right.
way.
I mean, April, she couldn't translate it into corporate.
Jason is, yes, one of my most favorite people, but the point that I'm trying to make is that when we have these conversations, part of the great part of these conversations is that we have them from all different aspects, from all the different perceptions across the country, and understanding that we're going to have differences. And this is one of those big fundamental differences. In Arizona, people have to drive to work. If you don't live in downtown Phoenix, you are driving to work. You are absolutely driving to soccer practice, because we have schools that we don't walk to school, because we have charter schools and we choose what school our child goes to. So we're more than likely driving our children to school, then clear across town. I mean, my son,
Well, they're need buyers. They are definitely need buyers.
Yes, they have to be. And so for us, you know, where I'm sitting, yes, I don't think that the things you're
Let me
saying
go another direction with the conversation.
are there.
And I wanted to get to this. Do manufacturers, are they taking excessive profits, unconscionable, unreasonable profits? And that's part of the reason, because I don't believe inflation or supply shortages are the culprit for cars and SUVs and trucks costing as much as they do. I think the manufacturers have gotten exceedingly greedy. I watched trucks go up 3 times.
Yeah, but Jim, why would they not? You know, we can't sit here and tell the OEMs, shame on you for overcharging people, when the dealers overcharge people, when the grocery store overcharges people, when every single person has jumped on the bandwagon of raising their prices. We cannot be upset with anyone for what they can get away with charging. That changes when they can no longer get away with it, right?
Well, it changes when we have a crisis, and right now this survey says we have a crisis.
Great. Which is why I think all the changes we're gonna be back in 2009 territory in T-minus 2-3 months, when Pride and Paycheck come back.
There you go. We've got a crisis. This survey was a crisis that was predictable. We knew it was coming. I knew that we were driving consumers out of the market. I knew that we were going to have repossessions. I knew we were going to have delinquencies. I knew we were going to have rising interest rates. I knew we were going to have an inflation, and I knew we're probably going to have a recession. So all of those things coming, we all knew that was coming. I mean, this is no surprise, and except the White House, everybody caught on to this. Everybody knew this was coming. So
no, it is, and so it's coming. It's here.
Why don't the manufacturers know it's coming? Why aren't they participating in cutting back prices if they are taking excessive profits?
Because they haven't needed to yet, right? They haven't needed to yet, but they will very, very soon. Because going back to what somebody said, I think it was Jason, right? The OEM's job is to sell the car to the dealer. The dealer's job is to sell it to the consumer. That's going to take some time before the backlog, because right now, dealers have cars starting to sit on the lot, but they're not turning down inventory yet. We're not at that place. We're like, woohoo, we're finally getting cars. So they're saying yes to everything that's being delivered.
You still need cars. You still need
bingo.
You still need inventory.
Until the dealer starts saying, whoa, horsey, whoa, slow down, and we start sending back turn down, and the turn down lists start coming out, that's when the OEM will go, uh-oh, now we have to change. So
there's a glut of Hummer sales right now. They have sold so many Hummers.
Well, that's because according to April, it's a need.
They sold 2 Hummers so far.
Here,
2.
In this big recession in 2009, there were still millionaires and there were still people out there buying what they wanted. You will always have want buyers. What I'm saying is this will be the year that we need to adhere to the need buyer.
A
The want
manufacturer has
want
always
buyers
maintained anywhere less than 10% base model sales. It's not going to happen. All right.
Okay.
We've always sold more than the base model. Like hell, we've been trained.
listen,
We've been
guys,
trained
I
for
think-
years
Oh,
to
as
upsell
well.
more than the
No,
base model.
Jason, are you saying
people
those
aren't
are
buying-
used car buyers? Is that what you're trying to say, Jason?
Nobody buys based on needs.
Nobody.
They buy completely based on experience and wants.
Okay, well, I'm going to say that's complete BS because almost every consumer that I've had to sit down
Well,
and
I mean, pull the stats. April. How many base model units did your dealership sell in?
every
2019?
single pencil that a consumer, when you ask them what they want their payment to be, they're looking at a $70,000 vehicle. Yeah, that's what they want, but they want a $300 payment, right? So then
We'll extend the term.
the dealer's job is to say, you're not getting a $70,000 vehicle for a $300 payment. It's not going to happen. So our job is to do what? Take them off what they want and get them what they need.
I remember in 2019, I was working on a project with Hyundai in Canada. And for the country of Canada, Hyundai had less than 200 Accent Ls to sell, but spent over 60% of their marketing budget marketing the Accent L. So yes, we will continue to market, all right, based on needs, but people won't buy based on needs. They'll buy on what they want and the experience that it generates.
But Jason, I think, listen, at the end of the day, math is math, right? And this is what I said in the beginning of this program, that Tesla has cut its prices for the third time this year.
Are they
And the
losing
reason
money
they-
at that? Are they
Well, they're
doing
looking
it?
for market
No, but
share,
I
guys. It makes
think-
sense what they're
I
doing.
think April hit it on the head. The difference is that there are no dealers in the Tesla model. So Elon Musk or Tesla, they know exactly that cars are starting to collect dust. And that's the only reason to reduce the sale price, right? So in the OEM world, we don't have an Elon Musk who owns Ford or who owns GM. These are multinational corporations with professional managers. And professional managers have pay plans that are not based on reality. Right? So if I'm a professional manager working for Ford or for Hyundai, why would I advocate for a sales price reduction? That sales price reduction will mean a pay cut for me. Right? So I'm going to hold off till the very, very last minute. And the choice will be this: either I get fired or I start fighting for the market share. Right? With Tesla, it's a little bit different because the guy is alive. He owns it, right? He has his finger on the pulse. He knows that Tesla S and Tesla Y and Tesla whatever is collecting dust. And unless he reduces the price, even though he's probably one of the most brilliant people, he understands, unless you reduce the price, you can't sell this thing.
Exactly.
Right? That's the mathematical reality. So when you say that there are no need buyers, I agree with April. It's complete BS because there's mathematical reality. We buy things that we can afford.
But a dealership
And
won't
if
order.
things,
I would never
and if
allow my
we
manager
think we
to
cannot
order more
afford,
than 10%
like during the
base model
pandemic,
vehicles.
and we're paying over $1,000 a month for a GMC Sierra, guess what's going to happen to that purchase? It's going to end up being a repossession.
It already is, Max. It already is. The repossessions are way up. We got record delinquencies right now since 2008. I mean,
right. But Jim, the person who repos their car is not going to be without a car, right? The laws of mathematics are going to kick in, and they're going to get a Ford Ranger that they should have bought in the first place.
And the subprime lenders are not in the market right now.
No, and quite frankly, because of the lack of new cars, we have a massive lack of used cars that people will be able to get the want. Typically, Jason, understand something. And I'm going to try to say this very, very clearly. You are right that people want to have.
Okay, yeah, Jim, we can stop it right there. Just go ahead.
Right.
Can we just stop it?
You're right about one thing, but understand that the reason we have the most base stripped down models we can for advertising is people come in the door based on what their perception is of a payment they can afford. And you're right. When they leave, they typically don't leave in the L, but they also didn't leave in the limited. And they certainly
payment is the customer's only buying motive.
And leave in a Palisade, right?
Yes,
it's
about
they may want the Palisade Limited, but they're going to leave in an LE version of the Sonata, right? Like the one step up version. But that's still a need customer. The customer is coming in not because they want to have $1,000 car payment because they want to keep up with the Joneses next door. They're coming in to buy an automobile as a transportation. So when they're coming in for the sole purpose of a payment and transportation, our job is to give them as much as we can that fit those two things.
Wait a second. Slow down. I want Jason.
I'm getting feisty now.
Jason, I'm gonna give Jason a minute to say why you are wrong.
No, I mean, look, people do come in because they need something, but when they sign on the dotted line, it's because they wanted it. All right, they come in with an affordability.
Jason,
I can afford $350 a month, but I'll walk out of the dealership at $405. All right, because I got what I wanted, and exceed.
You got sold.
Well, no, that's
right.
normal.
So I'll give you a perfect example, guys. When I started in retail, I was trained by a general manager in a Toyota dealership, and he was the #1 Echo selling dealer in America. I don't know if you guys remember Toyota Echo. This is like before Yaris.
There you go. Now that's a big vehicle.
Crap out of them, Max. Sold the crap out
right.
of
Okay.
Echo. We're still driving around today.
Right. So do you honestly think that people were coming in and saying, listen, I'm not leaving here without an Echo? No. They were coming in saying, I want this Land Cruiser. And every salesperson was trained to say, let me show you something better than a Land Cruiser. And before checking credit, they would walk everybody to an Echo. Right? Because a mathematical reality is that 99% of the population cannot afford a Land Cruiser.
And their credit won't finance it.
Correct. But probably 80% of the population can afford an Echo. And Toyota Financial Services will finance 80% of the population. As long as you have a pulse, you're going to drive an Echo. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not about a want buyer, it's what we can get. Mm-hmm. Right? Because listen, if you walk into a Toyota dealership, and I'm using Toyota as an example because they have cars in every price segment, right? Nobody comes in saying, listen, I can't wait to get my hands on this Yaris, or Corolla is the ultimate dream of my life, right? But the majority of them walk out or drive out in these cars.
It's the majority.
The Land Cruiser and the Sequoia,
new car dealers maintain less than a 10% base model sell.
In that trim level, though, Jason, in that trim level,
yeah,
you're missing the boat. A need buyer a want buyer comes in wanting to buy a Land Cruiser. They go out in an LA Corolla.
Well, but we've already said that people don't come in based off of wants. They come in based off of needs. They leave because of what they want. They purchase what they want.
Not everybody comes in. Not everybody comes into the showroom on the lowball ad on the base model. A lot of people come in because they want to get a Land Cruiser, but then somebody at the dealership slaps them into reality, saying that, sir, ma'am, you're light years away from a Land Cruiser. Let me show you another cruiser, right? It's called Echo or Yaris or Corolla. It's going to do the same thing as the Land Cruiser, at $1,000 less a
We're
month.
going to put you in a vet. Now they're thinking Corvette. I'm thinking Chevette.
Right, it's a Chevette.
Well, at the end of the day, it all boils down to salesmanship. And we haven't needed to have salesmanship the last few years. And it's going to be the most important thing of 2023 is that we get back to actually solving problems for consumers and helping them get
salesmanship and management and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Management and marketing. Management. I spent the last week, Thursday and Friday, training managers to manage process, managers to manage salespeople, managers to communicate with customers on the customer introduction, the TO. It's so important that our managers are up to speed and our processes are up to speed. Dealerships have got to tighten up everything they do. Mm-hmm. And processes run the dealership. You can't manage by superstars.
No, that's true.
I've seen dealers just try to manage by superstar managers, and they bring a superstar manager in, and the superstar manager brings his own superstar crew, and they leave. And then where are you? You're starting over again with a new superstar.
Yep.
The process transcends the human being. The person adapts to the process. We don't bring the process with them. In the best dealerships, the process rules. I was in a dealership in North Carolina, and the salesman walked up to me and said, "Mr. Ziegler, wait till you see the way we pencil deals here." I said, "Well, let me see what you do." He said, "I came from the biggest Ford store in the state, and this is what I said, "Man, that is amazing. That is a really great pencil. I'm going to have to really learn how to do that." I said, "I like that." Now, of course, you realize we're not going to do that here. He said, "I thought you liked it." I said, this dealer has spent a fortune on putting in a process. And I'm not going to confuse all the people by sticking your pencil into the process. Now, we might adapt your pencil, but it's going to be gradually introduced and trained into the process. You're not going to come in here and start doing that. This guy was not a salesman. He was a manager, come to think of it. He was a desk manager. And he wanted the desk deals a certain way. And I said, "No, we're not going to do that. The process rules. You're going to learn our process, and we may adapt to some of the stuff you just showed me because it's pretty good. But we're not going to do that right now."
Well, and I think that's the key for the next, 12 to 24 months. We got to process our way to profitability. We won't profit our way to, we won't make our way to profitability, selling base model vehicles, but that's okay. But we will process our way to profitability, right, Jim?
I'm a process guy.
So listen, guys, I agree with you. Process is great and it's paramount. But in the last 2.5 years, the balance of power shifted towards the manufacturer, away from the dealer. And unless the dealers are picking up the phone and raising hell, demanding base models and rebates and lease programs, right? You can have the
dealers
best
are not angry enough.
Right, but you can have the best process in the world. You can be a well-oiled machine, but if I cannot afford a car, I cannot afford a car. Right? That's the bottom line. I'm going to keep my old car, and that's it. And have a nice day.
And let's face it, Max, the banks are starting to be more conservative, right? Like you have to put more money down, and some of the banks are starting to say, "No, I'm seeing declines on people you wouldn't have had a decline on 3 months ago," because they're starting to get scared themselves, right? Because
and I think that's why I think one of our next topics need to be fixed ops, because I got to be honest with you, if I'm service manager, I'm in love what's going to happen.
We've done fixed ops. Time to do fixed ops again. I'm going to bring some guests in that I know that are the top fixed ops managers in the country. I've got some people lined up. Okay, guys, we have burned through an hour. Affordability. Can consumers afford the cars? Or are they going to put off purchasing for as much as 10 years? Now, one statistic that's been out there for a while is the average car on the road's over 8 years old. So if the average car on the road is over 8 years old, how many of those people have had the car the full 8 years? Yeah, we don't know that stat at all. Everybody wave goodbye to the audience.